You know that moment when your cat finally jumps onto your bed at night? The room is dark, the noise of the day still echoing in your head, your jaw tight, your breathing shallow without you even noticing? And then you feel it. A small, warm weight settling near your legs, a quiet circle of fur, a slow exhale, a low purr that feels more like vibration than sound. And your shoulders drop, your breath deepens, and for the first time all day, your body stops scanning. If you know that feeling, this is going to feel uncomfortably accurate. Let me ask you something. When your cat ignores you for 6 hours and then suddenly demands attention like royalty, do you feel rejected or oddly honored? If you feel honored, you're about to understand something important about how your nervous system works. Because loving cats isn't really about personality. It's about regulation. Some nervous systems regulate through activity, constant engagement, stimulation, feedback. Movement feels safe, noise feels alive, interaction keeps energy circulating. Other nervous systems regulate through stillness, through predictability, through the absence of demand. If your body spends most of the day in low-level vigilance, reading tone, interpreting pauses, adjusting behavior, anticipating reactions, you don't need more activation when you get home. You need a downshift. A cat doesn't rush you, doesn't escalate emotion, doesn't require enthusiasm. It settles into space and allows you to settle with it. That's co-regulation without performance. And if you've ever felt drained after social interactions that were technically fine, this matters. Because what exhausts you isn't people, it's overstimulation, subtle vigilance, the constant microcalculation of social environments. When someone says, "Dogs are too much for me," they're not insulting dogs. They're describing nervous system overload. When they say, "Cats are peaceful," they're describing regulation. Two different biological needs. Neither wrong, just different adaptive wiring. And once you see it through that lens, the stereotype of the cold cat person starts to fall apart. This isn't distance, it's boundary intelligence. Human relationships often come with invisible contracts. Respond quickly, express clearly, reassure consistently, match energy, and even affection can carry pressure. Why aren't you more expressive? Why do you need space? Why don't you react the way I do? For someone with a sensitive or easily overstimulated system, that negotiation is exhausting. Cats operate differently. They don't assume access. Their affection is offered, not imposed. When a cat sits on your lap, it doesn't require conversation, eye contact, or emotional reciprocity. And when it leaves, it doesn't demand explanation. It's connection without intrusion. For people who value consent and boundaries, sometimes because those boundaries weren't always respected, this dynamic feels profoundly safe. You don't earn closeness by performing. You just share space. And biologically, that matters. Before thoughts form, before emotions are labeled, your nervous system is constantly scanning for cues of safety. A steady purr, low-frequency, rhythmic vibration, signals no threat. Research suggests these frequencies can reduce cortisol and promote parasympathetic activation. In simple terms, your body shifts from alert to calm, not because you forced it, but because it recognized safety. And here's the part people don't say out loud. In a world that equates intensity with intimacy, loving something quiet can make you feel different. Maybe you've wondered if you're too sensitive, too withdrawn, too selective. But what if you're just wired for subtlety? What if your system prefers presence over performance? There's nothing defective about that. In a culture built on constant stimulation, it might even be rare. And if you've ever felt more understood by a small animal than by half the people in your contacts list, you're not strange, you're regulated. And that's only the beginning. So why does this matter more than it seems? Because most people misinterpret what's actually happening. They assume loving cats means you dislike people, that you're antisocial, detached, emotionally avoidant. But avoidance and nervous system protection are not the same thing. If your system is easily overstimulated, your brain prioritizes predictability. It looks for environments where vigilance can soften, and cats provide that. They move slowly, signal subtly, and don't flood the space with emotional demand. Here's one of the core reasons this dynamic works so well for certain people: attachment patterns. People with anxious attachment seek constant reassurance. People with avoidant attachment withdraw under pressure. But there's a third pattern that rarely gets discussed: individuals who are highly attuned yet easily overwhelmed. You want closeness, just not intensity. Cats model secure, low-pressure attachment. They come close, they leave, they return. There's rhythm without urgency, and rhythm regulates. Now here's where things go wrong. Many cat lovers internalize the cultural narrative that their preference means something is off, so they overcompensate. They push themselves into overstimulating environments, tolerate social dynamics that exhaust them, ignore their body's signals just to appear more normal. That's the mistake. The mistake isn't loving quiet. The mistake is assuming quiet means deficiency. Over time, ignoring your regulatory needs keeps your nervous system in low-grade activation. Elevated cortisol, subtle muscle tension, shallow breathing, difficulty concentrating, irritability that feels like personality but is actually physiology. Nothing dramatic, just chronic. And there's something even deeper happening. Ethologists describe a mechanism called baby schema: large eyes, rounded features, small nose, traits that automatically trigger caregiving responses in the brain. Cats fit this pattern almost perfectly. When your cat looks at you, nurturing circuits activate before conscious thought steps in. But unlike human relationships, this nurturing isn't negotiated. It flows outward without complex emotional accounting. If you learned early to self-regulate, to manage your feelings quietly, caring for something that doesn't intrude feels balanced. It's closeness without overload. There's also a biological layer. Low-frequency purring has been associated with reduced stress responses and parasympathetic activation. The sound doesn't demand attention like speech. It fills space without fragmenting focus. This is co-regulation through vibration, not conversation. And if you think deeply, if you need long stretches of uninterrupted mental quiet, cats protect that cognitive environment. They coexist with focus, don't require ongoing feedback, and don't equate love with constant interaction. If you're reflective, introverted, open to experience, traits often correlated in personality research, your preference isn't random. It's aligned. But here's what happens if you ignore that wiring. You start believing you're too much or not enough, too sensitive, too quiet, too selective. You override your need for low-pressure environments, and your body pushes back through fatigue, irritability, social burnout. The problem was never cats. The problem was misunderstanding your own regulatory system. Loving cats isn't withdrawal from humanity. It's alignment with a nervous system that values subtlety, rhythm, and consent. And when you stop pathologizing that, something shifts. You stop trying to be louder than your nature. You stop apologizing for needing space. You recognize that your preference isn't a flaw. It's information. Information about how you function best in a world that rarely slows down. And once you understand that, you don't just see your cat differently. You see yourself differently. So the next time your cat curls up beside you and the room feels softer, quieter, safer, notice what's really happening. It's not just affection. It's your nervous system recognizing an environment where it doesn't have to brace. In a culture that confuses intensity with intimacy and noise with connection, you chose something different. Presence without pressure. Closeness without intrusion. Rhythm instead of urgency. There's nothing wrong with you for preferring that. Your body isn't distant. It's precise. And maybe loving cats was never about the animal at all. Maybe it was your system finding the exact frequency where it can finally rest, and calling that home. So I'm curious, what does your cat mean to you personally? Share your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear them. And if this resonated, subscribe for more deep psychological insight.